in it.
I want the Gators. I'm missing the Gators already. Welcome to Herp Talk Radio. I'm your host, Matthew. And with me, as always, the
Is
lovely Peggy.
Hi, the co-host, the troublemaker usually.
So, Pegs, how's it going? What's new cracking this week?
Oh, well, we have. I really want to say I'm really excited about this show. First of all, that we have Chris Leone on, one of my favorite podcasters and YouTubers, and learned so much from him. But in my realm. I was mowing the yard yesterday and I saw some movement off into the other side of the fence, which we call the dog pasture, a quarter of an acre that we have fenced for our dogs. And I thought, oh, there's a little bunny over there. No, it's this huge, big painted turtle female. And where she came from, I have no idea, because there is no pond close to the place unless somebody, neighbor up the road, down the road, has a landscape pond they've put in and had stocked it with her, but she must have been roaming for a long time. She either she climbed into that dog fence, because we have it buried 6 inches down, and the dogs can't even more than that. The dogs can't dig out of it, or else someone put her in, knowing that I'm the turtle lady and that I would find her. But she was severely dehydrated, severely emaciated. Thank God, not gravid. And so now she's in a tank and eating nice, but it's like, where? It's just bizarre. It's like, boom, turtle, another one.
It's the season, right?
Yeah. So that was my big surprise yesterday. I contacted my neighbors. We're on a neighborhood watch list, and I said, "Is anybody missing a turtle?" And they would go, "No." And so I contacted my game fish and parks contact person, Jen, and I said, okay, this just happened. After I make sure she's okay, I put some weight on her, and really check her out. She's got clear-eyed, eating well now, and hydrated. And I go, can I bring her to the outdoor game fish and parks Rapid City campus once I know she's safe and sound? And they said, yeah, because they've got 3 ponds on that acreage. And so that's where her home's going to be before she becomes gravid again.
Yeah. What did you say was a painted turtle?
Yeah, big 9-inch female Western painted turtle.
Wow.
And I mean, they're local here, but it's like the only pond that I know of is about a mile and more than a mile as a crow flies. And why and a lot of territory where she had an opportunity to lay eggs, between that pond and here. It's like, why she ended up here is beyond me.
Yeah,
but
me too. A lot of species really hit the ground running when they're ready to lay.
Yeah.
The crazy part about that is like I road cruised my first painted turtle on the same week too. So like I've always seen him at the lake, but I've never seen him on the road until just the other day. And and then Peggy calls me. She's like, "Did you find that turtle close to my house? Because if you did, it's here." It was probably 50 miles away.
Yeah. And it's just surprising to me. I mean, I've lived in this log cabin for over 30 years, and to find a Western painted turtle on our place, is unheard of. And so, it's like where she came from is,
right.
Yeah, it's and that's one of the things that I want to talk the game fish and parks into doing, because this one pond that we emptied out last year, absolutely bone dry, got all the turtles moved out of there. And now there's 3 adults in there and several juveniles. Juveniles I expected, because they would hatch out, when the pond was refilled. That I expected. And to see 3 adults there, it's like, where did they come from? And I go, can we put, if it dries out again, can we put tags on them and then find out where they're coming back from?
Yeah.
That would be a way to go.
Yeah, it's interesting. So do you want to formally introduce our guest, Matthew?
Well,
or should I?
Let's what's new with me this week?
Oh yeah, we can well we're kind of watching that in progress, aren't we?
Well, yeah, a little bit. But I did find a painted turtle. That's pretty cool. And I'm driving again across the country for the second time in a month.
Wow.
If you would have, I never thought I'd see Nashville in my lifetime. I've been to Nashville 3 times within the last 30 days. So,
Ouch.
yeah, I'm real happy about it, but still, you know, drive time sucks. Everyone's getting cranky right now, including
Oh
me.
yeah.
But what's your reptile news of the week?
I found a painted turtle. That's about it.
And you have everybody watching your snakes right now. Your reptiles.
Well, no, the snakes don't really need to be watched.
Yeah,
I mean, we should be back. We were gone for about 2 weeks the first time, and I got back and I was real worried about the water. Everyone still had full water except for one. So I put a bigger water dish in, and we should be good for 2 to 3 weeks again. So,
yeah,
if not a little longer. Fed them good before I left. So,
wow. Okay, great.
They're snakes. They don't require the daily attention.
Yeah, and which reptile town are you moving to?
I don't know yet for sure. It depends on where the job's at.
Okay.
I'm looking Bluffton County, Jasper County, South Carolina.
Jasper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where all the corn snakes come from.
That's right.
Okatee corns.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
They're all right down in that area. So,
Yep.
I don't know. We needed a bigger change of the scenery. You know, we got to Tennessee and the mountains, and I love Tennessee and these mountains. It's gorgeous and beautiful, but it's just not quite enough different, if that makes sense, than the Black Hills. Even though the trees are leafed and it's a little different, the coast is a completely different place.
Yeah.
Where I live.
So, yeah. Up north there. So, this week, if you haven't quite gathered yet, we have Chris from Garden State Tortoise.
Yes. Yeah.
Usually we do a little what got you started? How did you?
My table just collapsed. Can you hear me still?
Yep. So usually we do a how you got to where you are kind of question. I know you got a lot going on there. So what started it and what keeps you going?
5 years old, growing up in north central New Jersey. It was summer. I was playing in a sandbox, that my dad had made in the backyard, and he was mowing the lawn, and he hit something.
Ooh.
And he didn't really injure it, just a little scratch, like little mark. He hit a box turtle with the lawnmower, and lucky for the turtle, he just grazed the top of the carapace, and he brought it over to me, and that's all I remember. That was it. I remember asking what it was, and he said it was a turtle, and I remember it was a shell, so I was, it just seemed like a pretty rock at the time. And then whatever happened at that moment, the rest of my life became all about them and other reptiles. And fast forward to I'm now 40. I don't know. There's been so much that's happened. It's crazy. And honestly, what keeps me going is the animals. I still love them just as much as I did when I was 5, and beyond that. And I'm still, I call myself a giant child all the time. I'm still, the other day in the car, my wife and I, with the kids in the car, were coming back from, I don't know what we were doing. I think we went out to get coffee or something, and we're coming back, and I'm in the middle of talking to her about something completely unrelated. And as if we don't see this happen every day, all the time, there was a box turtle that was just coming across the road, and I was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Wow," I just still, it's basically the blood that pumps through my veins.
Yeah.
The animals are what keeps me going.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 66, and I know what you're talking about. That finding that turtle yesterday, it's like just this buzz goes through you. It's like,
yeah, you're right.
What's that doing here? And then to explore that individual, and take pictures, and and it's just, I feel like I'm a kid again, and that's pretty good, being decades old, many decades old, and so. So now, Chris, you went on to get a degree in a biological field. Could you explain that to us?
I actually didn't.
Oh, I thought. I thought you.
No, a lot of people think that I did because of my line of work and what I'm been able to do, but I guess I was one of the few that somehow pushed through without ever going to school, and I just couldn't. When I got out of high school, at the time I was a working musician.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I was on the road a bit and stuff like that, and putting out records, but my main passion was still reptiles, and I basically just knew that if I were to go to school,
mm-hmm.
I would just be wasting my parents' money.
Well,
I had read so much, and at that point I was already writing my own things, and I just kind of basically said to myself, like, nobody's really going to be able to teach me what I want to know more about. I just took chances, I took chances and just kept going with it, and more kept happening. And then in 2021, was it 21 or two? Yeah, the very beginning of 2021. It was like right after 2020. I got hired as an assistant herpetologist.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and that's so essentially I'm an assistant herpetologist, field biologist, and I work primarily with snakes in the field.
Mm-hmm.
But I do, there's definitely some turtle work too. I just did some bog turtle work.
Fun.
Yeah, I was on a box turtle monitoring job, but they all go hand in hand. All the reptiles do. It's funny how many people, it's funny how many people out there don't. It's almost like they don't want to accept that turtles and tortoises are reptiles. And it's hysterical because like I love all reptiles. I get I'll say I get just as excited when I see a snake in the field, but I think I actually get more excited about snakes. And when I go and I try to share that on our platforms, it's amazing how many people are like, nope, not a snake, not a lizard. I remember one guy actually went off on us on, I think it was a YouTube video, and it was like, stop calling them reptiles, you idiot. It's like,
oh my.
Okay, boss.
No, they are reptiles. Yeah. I mean,
something like that. You just kind of go, all right, lie down before you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But so that's just one little part of what I have going on. I'm in the field working. I'm here working. Then we do volunteer field work, which is the Herp project, and it's never ending. And somehow, I'm a husband and a father on top of all of that.
Yeah. So now, are you on your different projects? The snake one, then the turtle one. Are you working for different agencies or the same agency?
So everything is kind of blanketed under New Jersey Fish and Wildlife and the Department of Environmental Protection. But the company that I'm employed with is an environmental consultant company. Okay. But we work directly with Fish and Wildlife. We work directly with the Pinelands Commission and other organizations or authorities. And our Diamondback Terrapin project is a Fish and Wildlife permitted project. They don't do any of the work. They write the permits,
Okay.
And then everything with Garden State Tortoise is kind of several parts. It's a breeding facility. It's a rescue. It's a hub, if you will.
And you have assurance colonies of some of the listed species.
Yes.
And you work with the wildlife agencies on that, and zoos, or who?
So whenever animals come from Fish and Wildlife or Game and Fish or anything, those are just confiscations. So they're not really interested in anything that goes on with the animals, as far as like what happens here, it's more of hey, we seized these, we need a place for them to live their lives out. So there's like a chain of custody that you have to sign. And then once the case is over, like while the case is still going on, the animals are considered live evidence. And then once the case is closed, then that's essentially it. They're basically signed over to you, and they live their lives out here. We have animals here from confiscations going back to 2017, 2015. And I think there was like one. I think there was one before that. Unfortunately, a lot of the animals that come in from confiscations don't live long, because the authorities sit on them for so long before they get them into an appropriate situation that they're often too compromised. It's awful, And then what's even worse is you have to hold on to the bodies as if the case is still going on. So at one point we had a freezer full of dead box turtles because they were so sick when they got here that no veterinary intervention, nothing worked.
Wow,
it's sad.
Yeah.
But then now, the insurance,
that is super sad.
Ooh, you're really loud there, Matthew.
The assurance colonies are really from like other conservation entities, like the Turtle Survival Alliance, the TSA, stuff like that. We have Coquelin box turtles here, which are they're from the Gladys Porter Zoo, and we're the only private facility in the stud book for them. Stuff like that. I'll just a couple small examples of
Yeah, that was I saw your 2 videos on the Coquelin box turtles. Really interesting. There's so many. I saw that the TSA was and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was asking through the TSA on their during their symposiums, looking for people like you to take start assurance colonies, take confiscations, people that were very good reptile keepers that live near major airports, that so that the transport to a facility like yours would be short and with more ease, like instead of a person like me out in South Dakota and not really an airport hub out here. And so, there's just so many questions like, once they give them to you, do you network with other zoos and other insurance colonies, as you share the stud book and breeding individuals?
There seems to, well, with the TSA, that's pretty straightforward. For example, one of the biggest groups that they gave us is our pancake tortoises, which are actually in Disney's Animal Kingdom's stud book. So when we end up getting babies from them, my understanding is that they'll be registered in Disney's stud book. And then the way it works with the TSA is, Garden State Tortoise keeps the first hatchling. TSA gets the second, then Garden State Tortoise gets the fourth, then they get the fifth, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And they can decide if they want them or if they don't, or where they want them to go. And eventually, to diversify the genetic pool, but then there's actually less of that than you would think, but part of it is so many of these animals, they're just not very prolific. They're not very reproductive. So, we just hatched into today's video, which we showed, we hatched 3 Mexican box turtles. And, so once the rest of the eggs hatch, I'll report to them and we'll decide who's going to go where, who's going to stay here, who's going to go to them or where they want them to go, that kind of thing. With something like Mexican box turtles, there's really limited genetics with them under captive management in the United States because there's no legal quota on them to come out of Mexico. So whatever is here, including the ones that we have, they were brought here illegally. So now these babies are a ray of hope. They're an actual now legal captive bred form of them. So they're pretty important for prolonging the existence of them under responsible keeping.
And so you can sell them to other accredited entities, or you share them with other accredited entities?
My understanding is that whatever ones we keep, we can do whatever we want with. We're definitely going to raise, especially since it's the first year, we'll probably keep all the hatchlings that we get to keep from the hatch here. So we can start, a captive bred assurance colony down the line. I mean, box turtles, they take forever to mature. You know, I think the record in captivity to get an animal to, you know, sexual maturity where it's healthy and reproducing, I think is between 8 and 12 years. It's still a very long time. And in nature, that's 7 to 22.
That's crazy.
A little different than six, right?
A lot different. I complain about the 5 years for my carpet pythons.
Yeah.
Is it too high or too quiet?
Very high. Very high.
I will try and adjust my settings. I am being very quiet.
Okay. And so now you have a number of species that you can sell, and that have been like you had just described, from captive born and then captive raised individuals. Now, how do you select who you sell to? I mean, is it persons that you really know are good reptile keepers? How do you approve? From what I gathered on your website, it's like you really had to know that the person, before you release an animal, that they really know, you know, they're not going to put it in a tiny plastic bowl.
You know, Casey and I wanted to come up with some kind of vetting process, you know, because we obviously believe in herpetoculture. We believe in the hobby, you know, and our, you know, our motto for the longest time was, you know, conservation and preservation through education, you know?
Right.
And, you know, it's because you need both sides. You need the conservation aspect of things, conserving the animals in the wild, habitat management and mitigation. And then you need the responsible captive management, because there's just you can't have one without the other. And there's still so many people out there that don't believe that, you know, or they think they don't believe it. It's because they really don't want to see the other side. You know, you've got people in the hobby that hate the biologists and the conservationists and vice versa. And really everybody just needs to join forces and get along.
Yeah.
There's bad in both sides, and there's also plenty of good in both sides.
Right.
You can't punish all the good with the bad. You got to join forces. We're all fighting for the same thing, you know, and it's, but even still, going back to the question, I got off track there for a minute. We wanted to come up with some kind of vetting process because we wanted to try to put some kind of control, you know, a realistic amount of control on where the animals were going. So we said, okay, well, let's not just let people buy stuff off the website by clicking. One click, the animal's yours, you get it, and that's it, it's done. And, you know, we have plenty of friends that have websites like that, and I love them. They're great people. That's just the way they do things, you know. We wanted to, and believe me, we created a lot more work for ourselves doing it this way, like an insane amount of work. But that's what we do, is we want people to reach out to us. We want them to understand that we do everything through prepaid pre-order, and that once they come to us, they can start a relationship with us. And sometimes with just in the first couple of sentences, when they initially contact you, you can tell if it's, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
What you got, what's available. It's like, no. You know what I mean? If you can't even say, hey, Chris, hey, Casey, my name is blah, 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 you're already too quick for me. You know, you're too much of a rush.
Yeah.
So we like to create a little bit of relationship, get a little bit of background with the people. We make sure that we have the websites and all the videos out there. You know what I mean? Like we're constantly trying to put the most current information on the species and the care and their conservation status, so that everybody's got the full package going into it. And it's a little bit tough, though. You know, it's hard to get people that are like religious on the website to come over to YouTube, and it's hard to get people from YouTube to come over to Instagram, and then Instagram to go over to Facebook. It's like, why can't there just be one? But they keep coming out with all these stupid platforms, you know? It's like, what's next, you know?
Yeah.
Getting the
like,
viewers from,
you know?
What was that, Matthew?
Getting the viewers from like the podcast app onto YouTube. We hand over fist get more downloads via podcast app than the YouTube stuff gets.
Yeah.
So,
but I think the same thing was I was one of the hosts on a podcast called the Pondcast for a while.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I was just on as a guest for the 100th episode because I was just too busy to keep being committed to it. But the Turtle Room guys are incredible. Actually, Anthony's coming to visit me this weekend, so I'm super excited about that. But same thing, like, you know, like on YouTube, like, you know, only this amount of people or these people would watch it on there, but then the downloads were it's crazy. But you know, maybe one day it'll all just morph into one thing. But you know, again, going back to the question, we try to have some kind of vetting process, and we're at the point where we feel like we're putting so much out there that we are definitely giving people the chance to, You know what I mean?
Yes.
In a thing or two before they contact us. And then when they do contact us, we can give them more links, or we can, tell them this, that, and the other thing. And then I always tell people, I'm here for lifetime support, but it's a lot of work. It really, really is, and sometimes you get some questions from people initially that you can tell they're good people and they want to do the right thing, but they ask you frightening questions, and it's like, oh man, do I really want to send an animal to that,
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing behind you as many of the habitats that I've watched you and Casey build. Yes. I mean, there's so much fun that goes into watching you build those habitats. And I teased Joel. I said, well, now seeing what, Chris and Casey were able to put together, we can put one of those type of habitats above the aquarium. Fasten it to the log wall like we do our kitchen cabinets.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny, like Toad Ranch, who has sponsored all of these builds. Jared and Denny Lynn are they're unbelievable. They're so talented. They make such quality products, and they love the animals. They get so excited. Like I just talked to Jared today because it irked me and him that like there's an open space here. That's where the chameleon cage is. And he was like, what are we going to do there? So we talked about that today, and we got a plan for that. But it's funny, like during the pandemic was the first time I discovered them. And, we're at home, can't do anything. We're sitting there watching the same shows over and over again. And I'm surfing online, and I think it was on Instagram. I saw an ad, and I was like, oh man, Case, look at this thing. Look at this is like a piece of furniture. We could put this like right under the TV, and then one thing led to another, and I had actually ordered an enclosure off their website. I was like, oh, I got to do all the specs and everything. And then I didn't realize that Jared and Denny Lynn knew who we were, and they actually were already following us. So then one thing led to another. We just started working together,
Cool.
But they're awesome. Such awesome enclosures.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I during the summer I can have all my turtles outside, but this has been such a weird spring and summer. I mean, we're still having nights in the 40s, days in the 80s. And so it's like, well, if I keep them out there with this kind of temperature shift, I would just expect some, pneumonia or God knows, it's just not, so I'm putting them out at, 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning when it's, 70 degrees. I've had to keep the two largest tanks heated to 70 degrees, through the night, and so that they go out there, 70-degree air, 70-degree water. I mean, and thank God for Phoenix aquarium heaters that, and then I partially cover their habitat so that the air, the heater doesn't have to work so hard through the night. Right. And so it's just unbelievable. And that's why Matthew goes, yeah, well, you're in the wrong area.
Yeah,
and so
it's funny.
Do you brumate your turtles outside, your tortoises outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on the species,
That was one of my kind of points with Peggy, like with the box turtles that are native from up in South Dakota. Like she could build a pen, and then hopefully they just live,
I found out I can't. I've got 2 types of ants here that would eat them alive as they brumate.
What kind of ants?
Now I don't have the species. One of them is about a half an inch long and red and black, very voracious. Thank God my neighbors, they build mounds that looks like they're, come from Africa. And
they act like fire ants, but they're not.
But yeah, they're not the fire ants. When my neighbors' chickens get out, they just tear apart those ant hives and take them out. But but there's still too many of them underground, and they will eat up turtle eggs. They will eat up rumated turtles. And I was warned about them, and I that'll be I'll share it, get more of information again and share it on another podcast. But it's we lose more nests in this area to ants, I've noticed, than to crows or raccoons. And it's and that lo and behold, we have that type of ant here. And
yeah,
I mean, they're voracious. You don't ever want to get too close to them.
we luck out. We don't really have any issues with ants here. We have a couple different species. The most common ones that we come across here are the yellow ant, but it's the species or the subspecies that smells like citronella.
Oh.
When you disturb them, it just instantly hits you in the face. It's citronella, but they're very peaceful. They don't bother anything. They're in just about every turtle pen. They don't even bother the eggs.
Nice.
But Matt, going back to your question, I brumate a very large portion of the collection here outdoors. So obviously anything that's native to the Northeast is fine. But I have success brumating a lot of Florida turtles out here. Our alligator snappers stay out year round. Our Florida box turtles, our Gulf Coast box turtles, three-toed box turtles. 1 year, 2 winters ago, I could not locate one of our male Cohelan box turtles in time for winter, and he came up in the spring. He hibernated at the bottom of a pond like a painted turtle would.
Wow.
Yeah. And then as far as the tortoises go, everything from Europe stays out year round for the most part. All 3 subspecies of Hermans, a couple different subspecies of Greeks, marginateds, Russians. Obviously, some of the more arid dwelling, obscure Greek tortoises like the Libyans, the Moroccans, and then Egyptian tortoises, they come in. But we do have to bring in a lot. We've got Aldabras, we've got Galapagos, we've got Redfoots, what else do we have here? We've got hingebacks, a whole mess of species that have to come in. And I try to pull myself back from doing more with some of the exotic aquatic species because I love them. And we do have some. We have a matamata, we have some Indian spotted pond turtles, a couple other species, but I don't have as state-of-the-art aquatic indoor facility as I'd like to. So it's a lot easier for us to house box turtles and tortoises over the winter that need to come inside. And, fortunately for us with that we're more known, publicly for tortoises and box turtles than we are other turtles. So that works out nicely. But yeah, South Jersey is a very interesting area. It's people don't get it. First of all, so I live on the outer coastal plain, which hugs the Pine Barrens. It looks like northern Florida here, literally. It's white sand, pitch pine trees, deciduous forest, a lot of wetlands, a lot of turtle diversity, a lot of snake diversity. We only have 3 types of lizards here, but we have a mess of amphibians. And so down here, and I'm only about an hour and 10 minutes south of where I grew up, where my parents still live. And in the winter, they'll call me and they'll say, "Are you guys okay? How much snow did you get?" I'm going to it's weird. It's very weird. So, people automatically associate New Jersey with just like dreariness, cold, snow. Snow's rare here.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually wish we'd get more of it for the sake of my kids because they're like, they've gotten like 1 or 2 good snowstorms in the last 6 years. And because we live on the coast, they melt like that. There's too much salinity in the air. But so the sandy substrate, the milder winters, the ridiculously hot summers, and I mean, it's uncomfortably hot. All really goes hand in hand with turtles and tortoises. It works out nicely. But I will say that sometimes it backfires. This year has been so wacky, like you were just saying, Peggy. The winter was so mild, like over the top mild. I mean, we had like 1 week of freezing temperatures, and then that was it.
I'm moving.
Don't because this is, you can't predict this place. So then spring shows up, right? March is miserable as it usually is. It's gray, it's raw outside, it's raining every other day. Then April hits and it's 80 degrees every single day and sunny.
Wow.
Like, what? Okay. And I'm telling you, we went on vacation to Disney World like we usually do because my brother-in-law works there. We went down to see them at Disney for a week in April, and we got to Florida and it was 62 degrees and raining.
Wow.
And I'm looking at my cameras back home because I have cameras on everything here to keep tabs, and the tortoises are out basking and all the turtles are on their logs. And I'm like, what, did the states flip flop or something? But then May shows up And like you just said, it decides to be 40 degrees every night and like 75 to 80 every single day.
Yeah.
And no rain in the vicinity. Like
Ooh.
unbelievable drought. Okay. Tortoises are trying to nest and the ground's just collapsing on them. The turtles, the box turtles, our Mexican box turtles held their eggs for like 6 to 8 weeks. They just would not lay them.
Oh.
And then now here we are. It's June 20th. It's the first day of summer. It's 66 degrees and raining.
Wow. Now, couldn't you hose down the, your, and they would dry up that fast?
It would dry up that fast, and they can't be that easily fooled. The animals, they obviously don't know what a sprinkler is or a hose is, but there's something that I think tells their biological needs or whatever, or recognition that this isn't rain. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to drink it. It's water. But they, I thought for sure, oh, if we wet this down, we'll get some nests. They held those nests until we actually got a good downpour. And we did. We got one really heavy thunderstorm, really awesome storm, drenched everything. And then for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there was no rain at all.
Oh, well, and the scientist in me goes, maybe you could do a scientific experiment where you add ozone into a controlled environment, and it's the ozone that's missing that the turtles sense that's really rain, and now we'll lay.
I was actually heading that way with like even snake guys. The moon cycles and barometric pressure changes are all we talk about. Our snakes always shed on a full moon for some reason, don't know why. And if a thunderstorm's coming, you're guaranteed to see breeding activity. If it's breeding season anyway. So that barometric pressure change might be it, and I don't know if you can replicate that.
Yeah.
It's tough. And barometric pressure definitely plays a vital role in any of these animals. And, with a full moon, with the terrapins, we know when there's a full moon that anywhere around that like 3-day span where the moon is either on the first of those 3 days or the last or the middle, whatever, we know there's going to be what we call a rush. And that's when with our diamondback terrapin conservation work, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of gravid females just crisscrossing all over the road, frantically looking for a place to nest. The tide plays a role. The temperature, of course, does. If it's cold and there's a full moon, they're not going to move. But as long as you've got warmth and the tide is high and there's a full moon, it's utter chaos.
Wow.
And the same thing to an extent happens with the animals here. I'll notice. I have snakes all. I know you can't see it here, but I have all our snakes on this wall, this long wall. It's the longest wall in the building, and when there's a full moon, they're just more active.
Well, going back to the diamondback terrapins, in watching your video from today, there were some eggs that you collected, and then another female that you just let go in another area, and she was digging that nest right in front of you, and you were going to leave those eggs there. What determines which eggs that you collect? And from what you said, those were going to be hatched out at a zoo. I know you had, hatched out tubs and tubs of diamondbacks yourselves. Yeah. So so I was like, oh, wait a minute. I thought, you and Casey collected them and then hatched them out for the group that you work for. But now the zoo's taken over the.
No, the zoos don't have anything to do with the terrapins. What we're doing now is we're working with Conserve Wildlife Foundation of New Jersey, and they're another conservation organization. They do a lot with raptors. They do bog turtle work, terrapin work. What else do they do? I can't think off the top of my head, but they do a lot of different species native to the state. And they have a terrapin project not far from here. And what they did was they built a half-acre nesting beach for the diamondbacks. And what happened was we started our project in 2018. And every single year, Casey and I would bring the eggs back here, incubate them in a separate room and everything from our animals in separate incubators. And then in the fall, when we'd have the babies, which were hundreds of them, we would go release them into the marsh. But there's something that's been going on internally with our state Fish and Wildlife, and they've been changing things. So this year, they decided that they didn't want us to incubate the eggs here anymore. They wanted us to do them off-site, which, a little bit frustrating. By the same token, it's like, don't really not mind having to worry about hundreds of baby diamondbacks, and it's a lot,
Mhm.
So there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of miscommunication. But then Ben Worst from Conserve Wildlife, who Casey has befriended over the years, he was like, well, I have a nesting beach. If they're cool with it, build your own nesting box so we don't get mixed up with our turtles. And then when your babies hatch, take them out of the box and just let them go. And Fish and Wildlife is like, cool, green light, do it. So that's what we're doing there now. And as far as what determines what we bring back and what we don't, we kind of leave it up to the mother. If like that terrapin that was nesting right in front of me, had she committed, we would have definitely got her nest, but she did end up giving up.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you can't force anything on her. You just let her go do her thing and hope that nothing gets the eggs. Mm-hmm. And, you do kind of play a little bit of a balance. You don't want every single egg in the vicinity being removed because they do feed some animals. It's just that in these particular locations, the predation has gotten to such an unnatural state that the terrapins aren't getting a chance at all. So we kind of just base it off the day. If there's a lot of terrapins going and we got to run from female to female to female, a lot of eggs are not getting collected. I think we collect the most eggs on days that are a little bit calmer because we can say, okay, here's this mother. Let's mark the spot. We know where she is. Let's go process this other turtle because this turtle is either not ready to nest or done nesting. And then by the time we get back there, if that one is finished, then we can remove her nest. But then sometimes they give up, And we're also playing a game with the crows. The crows have facial recognition. They can recognize vehicles. They don't bother anybody else on that road, but they're that smart. They're one of the smartest animals in the world.
Yeah.
And they know our faces. They know our card. And they're like, okay, turtle people are here. Let's trail them. So, and they're so bold that all you have to do is walk away from one female to go to another. And then somebody's flying down, grabbing whatever they can out of that nest and telling their friends,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really liked it wasn't the one from today, but the other Diamondback Terrapin video where they're laying on the side of the road.
Yeah.
That I saw that in South Carolina. There's a turtle laying on the side of the road, and then you're 100% right. Those eggs were very, dug up within a few hours, I'm sure. And in South Carolina, you're not allowed to touch them. That's fine. So
well, it's the same thing here, but luckily we have the permit to do it. But like regular, just anybody can't just go and do anything.
Right. Yes.
Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, if a turtle nested on your lawn, you can cover it with something because it is your property." And then of course people that just want to do the right thing, they're just quiet about it and they'll help. But yeah, the wildlife laws are insane. And speaking of which, we put a short out on YouTube, which we hate doing, but we have to do it. It keeps
me too.
All it is YouTube trying to be TikTok, Yeah. But so we have to do them. And I did one where we live backed up to 47,000 acres of wildlife refuge. So there's wildlife all around us, and it's not just Diamondback terrapins. There's a lot of box turtles here. So the one morning I was walking around the yard, and there were two male wild box turtles that had gotten into a fight. And the one flipped the other one over, but then he made the sorry mistake of biting that
yes.
And he clamped on his jaw. So I'm filming it, and I'm saying in there, like, sorry guys, like this is nature. I called our wildlife vet just to be like, you think there's anything else I can? And he was like, no, leave him alone, And I posted that video of me just saying, like, unfortunately there's some weird laws where you really can't do anything. They're wild. They'll work it out. And they did work it out. They separated unharmed and went on their ways as they should. But of course that stupid video went viral. That one had to go viral. And the comments are just absolutely insane. It's hysterical. People are like, just flip them over. Pour water on them because they don't understand the anatomy of a box turtle. If you were to blow on that turtle, he would close tighter.
Yeah.
And
I would have just like moved him to the shade until they worked it out, so they didn't.
Yeah, it's like, people, how about you don't make a video and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you have no idea what's going on. And whether or not I helped him when the camera was off, that's something that just remains to be told,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's the whole negative connotations always do well. I mean, that's why we have some of the people we do in the reptile hobby leading the way in the
Yeah.
Maybe away in the media category.
I think anytime anybody posts anything, you're going to get just the weirdest comments ever.
You could save an infant from a burning building. Somebody will still tell you shouldn't have done that, or you know, that's the age we live in. You know, there's people that are just sitting there, they got nothing else going on, and they need to chime in. But
yeah,
unfortunately, it is what it is. But the engagement keeps the videos going too. So in a way, you feel sorry for those people, but you also thank them because they're what's going to drive it up even further. And you are reaching more of a global audience that wants to really learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can tell you how many people they never knew why a box turtle was called a box turtle. They're like, wait a minute, that thing can seal shut. That thing can close its shell. So those are the people we want to blow those people away with, like, wow, these animals are amazing. I just thought they were dumb turtles, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, whatever comes your way is what comes your way. But, you know,
we've mentioned it a handful of times on the podcast. Turtles are way more approachable than a lizard or a snake, or they're the most approachable reptile, maybe besides frogs. But I don't think people want to hold frogs. People will pick up a turtle.
No, and I mean with frogs, you know, like there's a lot of skepticism with that too, because you're not supposed to hold them because of how, you know, sensitive their skin is and everything. But yeah, I mean turtles are definitely, you know, the more approachable of them. You know, I mean, obviously lizards are very hard to catch, you know, and most snakes are gonna try to make themselves look tough, even though they aren't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, a wild pine snake, you know, because I work with them in the field. So I've gotten to experience that many, many times, and that never gets old. And those things are just the hiss that comes out of them. I mean, some of them, the big ones rattle. I have a huge male. We call him Gigantia, which means a place of giants, because he's one of the record size pine snakes. We couldn't even get a weight on him. He tipped out the scale.
Wow.
And when that thing hisses, and he's a captive bred snake too, so it's not like he's really got a reason to fear me. I use him for education all the time. And the reason I use him is because he'll never bite, and he never like suffers from it. He seems to handle it very well. You know, you put him right back in his enclosure when you get home and he's ready to take a rat, you know. But when he hisses, because he's so big and so loud, it actually rattles, you know.
Oh, wow.
Very impressive. And that's just what, you know, one of the things that pine snakes are known for, you know. But then you've got racers that want to kill you. You know? Every racer is just mad, you know.
So
they absolutely hate humans.
Oh, they really, really do. I think they're the ones leaving comments. I think.
So the pine snake, they vocalize a rattle much like the bull snakes then?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same species.
Yep.
Ish. Okay. Not subspecies, but they're pits. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, any pit is gonna. It's just so incrable. Loudest hissers. You know, I think they are the loudest hissers, right?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, I've only handled the bull snakes here. They're native to here. And, you know, a girlfriend and I got a real, how long? She was at least 6 feet long, huge head. And, you know, we didn't know, you know, we'll put her in the, behind my garage in this ball and claw old tub and make a screen over it. She's in the shade sun in the morning, sun, you know, in the evening. And then all of a sudden one morning there were babies everywhere. We had put her in about a foot of duff. You know, I didn't know if she had, you know, didn't know if she had been live bearing or she had, you know,
they lay eggs,
laid eggs. And, you know, and we were 11 and 12 years old, you know. All of a sudden I go, Lois, you got to come over here. I don't know what to do with all, you know, and my mom was screaming like, you move them out into the woods, you know. And then there was, and then there was a pond just on the other side of the woods, and so perfect bull snake habitat. And so that's what we did, you know.
I got to see, the only time I ever got to see a bull snake in the wild, I had one for a while, but I got to, in 2015, the Minnesota Herpetological Society flew me out there to speak. And when I was out there, the DNR took me out to do some quick field research with Blanding's turtles, just to like help them out for the day. And we checked a drift fence which is funny. Like that's one of the things I do for my job now. And it was the first time I had ever seen a drift fence, and they had little box traps and pitfall traps, much like what we use today. And they were like, oh, do you want to go check we'll see if we got anything in the traps. And I'm like, sure. And they didn't think we were really going to have anything. It was a cooler, overcast day, kind of like today. And, but there was like a juvenile, like maybe like a 2-year-old bull snake in a trap. And it was just so cool to, I mean, again, it never gets old seeing my native stuff in the wild, but to see another herp like that, you know, and I've had the pleasure of seeing a couple different species in the wild outside of New Jersey, but that was one that was really memorable for me, you know, because it was funny was at that point in time when I found that wild bull snake, I had still not seen a New Jersey pine snake in the wild.
Oh,
so yeah. So it was really, I got to see that picture opens before I got to see our picture. So,
wow. Yeah.
I am a big fan of pits. I love that little attitude that they have. And like my baby, they're juveniles now. Yeah, if you catch them on the wrong day, man, they'll coil up like a rattlesnake, buzz their tail up against the side of the container, strike and strike and strike and strike.
Yeah, this guy,
and then once they're done, they're done.
Oh yeah, this
noticed.
guy, when I first got him, he was given to us by a guy that actually follows us, and he's a rat snake breeder, but he raised this guy from a juvenile, and he needed to give him up because he's just too much snake for me. And I'm thinking, really, a pine? But this pine is so huge. When I first got him, he was so mad, he struck the glass and broke it.
Whoa.
Yeah, struck the glass and broke it. Hasn't done it since. He's really calmed down since then. But he legit, because you know, a lot of pits are just fronting. But this dude was like, "No, man, I'm like almost as big as you, and I'm going to show you that." You know,
oh my.
It was cool. I had to go get a new pane of glass for the enclosure.
Matthew keeps teasing me that I am going to get a pet snake, and I go, since we rewilded our yard, I encounter at least 3 or 4 or 5 snakes a day. You know, they're out bath. We've got the terrestrial garter snake, we've got the plains garter snake, and we've got the common garter snake. And I saw a red line snake, and I tried to catch it, but I couldn't. I didn't have my camera, and I go, they're not supposed to be here, you know. And you know, they're supposed to be over in Idaho and Colorado, but you know, here one was in our yard, and
wow.
And so it's just, you know, we live on 3 acres, and we've just we haven't used, you know, any sort of herbicide or anything like that for decades. And so once we just let everything grow, and we have I'll have to take a picture, and we have paths, you know, with these big clumps of wild grasses that are up to 4 feet high. And we used to have a mice problem, but our cats weren't taking care of it. But now that all these snakes have moved in, they're cleaning up the mice and you know, in their nests, and we don't have any mice getting into our vehicles anymore, and you know, into our structures. And yeah, so I said, yeah, you know, snakes can get into places that cats can't, and so they'll take care of your rodents a lot easier.
Right.
So, you know, every now
snakes are native too.
Yeah, and I like to catch them if they're, you know, if they're kind of sluggish, and I catch them, I hold them, and then I let them go. You know, it's like they're fun. They make me feel like
back that ball python that I showed you. I think you'd take it.
Oh yeah.
The one that I found at that pet store.
Oh, that lavender one, that silver lavender liquid silver snake.
Head for invisible. We just got a beautiful female ball python that was surrendered to us, and I was told she was. I'm not good with morphs. Not that some of them aren't absolutely beautiful. I'm more of a natural appearance guy, with reptiles. But this ball python she's beautiful, and I'm not exactly sure what she is. She was, the person that gave her to us said that they thought she was a queen bee, but then I had my friend Brian, you guys know Brian Barczyk.
Yeah.
Brian, I asked him, I said, what is this? And I called it a lesser clown, I think, or something, or lesser pastel. I got to look at the text, but he said, man, that's a really nice snake. And I love the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a ball python guy where I got into breeding them. I've had a couple in the past, as a kid and stuff. I got actually a quick funny story about one, but I really enjoy this snake, even though it's a morph. Like, she's such a sweetheart, and she's an unbelievably reliable eater because you know how ball pythons can be, and she really is a sweetheart. But yeah, quick funny story. When I was growing up, you know, it took a while to get my parents on board. You know, I had to, you know, they would let me do stuff, but there was a lot of no's. I would have to go through before I got the yes. And my dad never liked snakes. My mom didn't bother her. My mom doesn't like rodents. She was freaked out by mice, but she had no problem with snakes. So they agreed to let me get a snake. And at some point I ended up with a ball python, you know, normal, classic looking one. And this thing was the most stubborn feeder ever. It was probably a wild caught import, you know, a little juvenile. And I figured out how to start getting them to eat by going on snake forums and stuff. Again, I'm just a kid. And what I used to do was put it in a little critter carrier with the mouse and then cover it. And because the snake was in darkness, it would eat every time like clockwork. Well, I was starting to get to the age where like I was hanging out with my friends more, and my friends came to the door and like, oh, can Chris come out and play? You know, remember when you could do that, you know? And I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. And I ran out the door and I left the snake on my bed in this critter carrier with the mouse. And my grandfather was over watching me and my sister. So I said, oh, Grandpa, I'm going out with my friends. He's like, all right, you know, I'll be back, you know, by whatever. And the next minute he goes upstairs to use the bathroom or something and starts freaking out because the snake popped the lid of the critter carrier and got out, and so did the mouse.
Oh no.
So he gets my sister upstairs because my sister, from a young age, I was like, you're not going to be afraid of anything. Like, you know, and she wasn't. She would come through the reptile shows with me and everything. And she had to, like, you know, chase the mouse and grab the snake for my grandfather. And yeah, I made some bad impressions with some family members. But I will end that by saying, even though it took me 40 years, I finally got my dad to like snakes, and now he has his own pet snake. So.
Oh wow!
Oh, there you go. That's a feat.
Hold it off.
Well, we do have a really beautiful milk snake native to here.
Yeah.
That one of my friends that has an indoor pool has them, that tends to come into her house a lot, and it's like. Maybe, you know, but
what is the species out there? Is it the pale milk?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right on that.
We have Eastern here. I actually just hatched some Eastern milks just a week ago. We have Eastern milk and coastal plains that's native out here. So,
yeah, just gorgeous.
Oh yeah, they're stunning.
Yeah. So what plans are you going to add any new animals or
always?
What tortoise, turtle, lizard, snake?
Well, I mean, you know, again, we are part rescue, so there's always new turtles and tortoises coming here. We just did a big surrender. A gentleman who's been following us for years, he unfortunately had a stroke. It's actually one of our most recent videos, I think, from last week.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
I just watched that.
Yeah, he gave us all his tortoises, beautiful blue tongue skink, which I actually turns out I was wrong about it in the video. It's not an Australian. It's the I don't know if I'm saying this right. The Irian or Orion Jaya. That one.
Irian Jaya or Poplin.
Yeah, beautiful lizard. So, you know, those are new. And then there's a couple things in the works right now. People looking to surrender animals, and we're just seeing if it's going to work out or not. As far as personal plans that we want to add, we're working on a build right now with ZooMed.
Mm-hmm.
They are sponsoring a build. I'm not going to say what the animal is yet because I'm not supposed to.
Okay.
And we're actually, I think we're going to go back and forth a little bit on that. We might want to change up the animal because of the type of enclosure, but they sponsored the whole build. They sent us a ton of decor and supplies for it. We are what else? There's something else going on.
I don't know.
I could get off with you guys and have an email saying I need you to take my dinosaur, you know, which would be cool, you know.
Well, yeah, it's like you know, with everything that you guys are doing in the field, you know, on your place, the two girls, the two dogs, and I said I've got to ask them what vitamins they take.
Coffee is a vitamin. That's what we do. And it's so funny. Like we drink coffee in the morning when we wake up, because my wife Casey and I, we're partners and everything. And she's, she's the reason that I'm still going with a lot of things, because I tend to get so burned out, and she's the one that, edits all the videos and films all the videos. And so she's like the mastermind behind everything, but we both, because of the kids, like we never get any sleep, and it's tough, and it's like a domino effect. In the middle of the night, like our youngest will usually wake up for some reason, like her leg fell asleep or she had a bad dream or whatever. And then she wakes up, one of us has to get up, and then the dogs wake up. And both of the boys, Gil and Angus, our boys, they're is it morning? So they're going nuts. But so we get up, we have coffee, and then we usually go out to Starbucks to get more coffee. And then we said just the other day, we're like, we got to stop doing this. We got to stop spending money at Starbucks. And they screw up our order like all the time. You know what I mean? And we're like, all right, we're going to stop. That lasted 2 days. We started filming today. We had another sponsored video today, and we started filming that, and we're both dragging. And I could tell she wanted to say it. She knew I wanted to say it. And she's like, I feel like I really need coffee. And I was like, yep, let's go. And so we literally stopped filming, drove out there to get more coffee, and we got through the day,
Oh, yeah. Well, Joe and I start our morning like that too, out on our veranda. And it's no matter, like today it was kind of misty and foggy and cool. And then we go, well, it's like we live in a log cabin as if we're renting it. And we've got the Forest Service with elk and cougar and everything that we can look down on. Why aren't campers would put on their coats and go sit outside and watch it on, and we're doing that.
yeah
And so I mean we're right next to Forest Service, so we've got hundreds thousands and thousands of acres of pine and oak glades and everything just all around us. And so that's what would be, and I used to work as a biologist here in the Black Hills and as a firefighter too. So, I after being in California for 2 years and Arizona for 3, moving back here, it's great for, hiking and dogs, but boy, for reptile keeping, I envy you.
It's interesting out here. It really, really is. And similar to you, we live in a very wild area, there's all kinds of wildlife. We have wild turkeys, sometimes as many as 40 of them, just walking right through the yard. Great blue herons, bald eagles. Like I said, there's a lot of turtles. A little disappointed in the snakes. I truly am. I literally only ever see one of 3 snakes. It's either black racer, northern garter snake, or the occasional baby water snake that shows up here. But yeah, I don't get any kings or black rats, and I'm too far out of. Actually, I shouldn't say too far. I'm literally just out of the pine snake range. My old neighbor who lived up the street, he just moved like not even 10 minutes inland. And the first day that he moved into the house, there was a dead pine snake in front of his house in the road. So yeah, I'm a little lacking with the snakes here. But we have fence lizards, which is awesome. There's a ton of them in the yard.
Fence lizards?
Yeah. We have 3 lizards in New Jersey. We have the eastern fence lizard, we have the ground skink, and we have the 5-line skink. Yeah.
Well, we've got these little horny toads.
Oh, that's right.
The horned lizards. Yeah, in the northern drier part of the hills on the west slope. And so I get to see them there. I mean, that, I would love to have one of those if they were legal to have. I should ask my game and fish contacts, well, can I get a species that's not native here that's been captive bred? Because I love those little things.
Most states do allow that. Jersey is really, knock on wood, because I said there's a bunch of stuff going on internally. But right now, Jersey Fish and Wildlife is still really awesome, where they'll let us keep any native species with the exception of the bog turtle, because that's federally threatened. So they'll let, they let us have North American wood turtles, diamondback terrapins, box turtles, spotted turtles, as long as we can prove a paper trail that it did not come from the wild anywhere. Right. But then there's other states like, Pennsylvania, you're not allowed to have an eastern box turtle but you can have any of the other subspecies. You can have Florida, three-toed, Gulf Coast, ornate, desert, Mexican, So, but then there are some states that, and this part is sad, they enact laws, a blanket law, because they admit that their biologists can't tell the difference between the subspecies. So when you go to a state like, don't quote me on it, but I believe it's New Hampshire. Where?
Georgia.
Yeah. Okay. Where
where I'm at.
Box turtles at all, right?
Wow.
No native at all.
No native at all. Okay. Well,
you
New
can't
Hampshire.
You can't even have like a white red-eyed corn snake. That's illegal because they're native.
You know what? I'm going to bring up something about the corn in a minute. I think it's New Hampshire. Sorry if anybody's from New Hampshire out there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe New Hampshire won't let you have any box turtles. So even though an eastern box turtle looks nothing like an ornate box turtle or nothing like a three-toed box turtle, they won't let you have it. If it falls under the terrapene genus or at least the terrapene carolina genus, you can't have it.
Wow.
Which is a shame because you're honestly inviting people to break the law when you do that. But Matt, the corn snake. So the corn snake is endangered here.
Oh.
It is endangered in New Jersey. Now, we don't know. There's a couple different opinions on that. If they're really actually endangered or if it's just habitat expansion because we're like the northernly most portion of their range. So New Jersey will not let you have a corn snake if it doesn't have red eyes. So the only way you're allowed to have a corn snake legally in New Jersey for any means is if it has red eyes. So it's got to be amel, it's got to be snow or creamsicle, whatever ones have red eyes, you can then have them. I have a normal wild type corn that I actually have to have an endangered species permit for.
Wow.
One of the most common snakes in the pet trade, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Not here.
I'm sure I can find you one down here.
Probably.
Somewhere.
Go walk into a store. There's probably one shopping.
Yeah, well, because I had worked with the South Dakota Game and Fish, and I'm the only, you're the only turtle person in at least West River, and so I'm doing a lot of rescues for them. I got the call to go to a landowner who was putting in rocks on a slope to stabilize it, and a snapper had buried eggs right where they needed to put all this rock work, and so I great landowners, very caring, and rescued 32 snapper eggs from there. And I'd never handled snapper eggs before. I thought I was anticipating that they would be the size of ping pongs, but these were the diameter or about a quarter. I just expected them to be bigger. And so, I marked the top of them and then brought them out because they had been laid 4 days before we got there. And so now I've got, all those snapper eggs, and we're going to bring them to the Rapid City outdoor campus that once they start pipping, then the people can come and watch them, come out of their shells and all that fun. And then we're going to release them from the creek that the mother had crawled out on. So but I'm able to do that because they granted me a scientific collector's permit.
That's what we have.
And so it goes beyond, I buy a fishing license every year, whether I go fishing or not. And now that I'm, 66, I get it for only, have to pay only $12 for it. And that allows me to catch, have 4 turtles in my possession. Well, now with this permit, I'm, whatever the Game and Fish says, gives me a call, go out and do, or I call and approve a rescue of something like this and disturbing the native nest. So I just, I just thought that you two must have permits, federal permits and then in the New Jersey permits. But do you find in some of your operations that when you cross state lines, do they ever send you across state lines and you have to have permits for that?
No, I don't get sent. Well, I shouldn't say that. With the job that I'm employed as a herpetologist with, there are some out of state work, jobs that we do, but I'm covered under the company's permits. Okay. Like I've done some phase 1 bog turtle surveys in New York and Pennsylvania. But the majority of the work that I do is in New Jersey, like vast majority of it. And then as far as our personal permits go, I had federal permits because we do work with some Endangered Species Act species of radiated tortoises, Coahuilan box turtles, couple different federally listed species, but we don't sell them. So there was no reason for me to have the permit anymore. So I let that go. I didn't want to keep spending $200 for a captive bred wildlife permit from the United States Fish and Wildlife Service for species I'm not even going to sell. Yeah. So, like our radiated tortoises, that's just like a fun project for us. They're also a big hit on the channel. People love seeing them. They love seeing their babies. So, that works out for us there. But as far as other permit, everything else is a state permit. And, I've got quite a few. I've got, I've got the endangered species permit for the corn snake that I could add, I could eventually add other endangered species too. The tiger salamander is endangered here. So if I wanted to add one to that, they would probably be cool with it. So I have the endangered species permit. I have scientific collecting for the terrapins. I have scientific holding. And then I have animal exhibitors zoological permit, which enables me to go do the public performances and presentations with the animals. And I have animal dealer, so that I can sell, baby tortoises and stuff like that. And then am I missing one? I don't even know.
Yeah, see, that's the one thing that I'm working with the South Dakota Game and Fish about. They know that their turtle laws are confusing. And, they're trying, I said, well, we need seller's permits that then they have to get, their South Dakota retailers license so that they have to collect sales tax and all this stuff because these people are buying, they said you can't buy and sell any turtle in South Dakota. I go, but Petco and PetSmart are selling turtles and tortoises. They go, well, they have a U.S. Fish and Wildlife license to do so. I go, but the people that are buying them don't have a buyer's permit. And you're saying that buying a turtle is illegal. Oh yeah. And so
that's typical. So here, one of the laws in New Jersey that I actually am in favor of, you're not allowed to sell or buy turtles within the state lines. So that means if you lived in New Jersey, I can't buy a turtle from you and I can't sell one to you. I can give you one, I can trade you one, but if there's any monetary purpose behind it, it can't happen. However, I can legally sell to anybody out of state from New Jersey all day long.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
North Carolina's similar.
Yes, yeah, North Carolina does that, right?
We had a guy on our show, Mike from Mike's Aquatics on Instagram. He's as far as he knows, North Carolina's only legal turtle breeder. So yeah, no, that whole permitting process makes a ton of sense. Like
it's weird.
He's the same way. He's not allowed to sell in state, but he can ship them anywhere.
And again, it sounds asinine, but I actually like it because it removes me from the pet store title, and it also I don't have to have people come here.
Right.
If I was allowed to sell in the state to a New Jersey resident or allow somebody from out of state to come here, which that's not legal either.
Wow.
I would have too many people. This is my private home.
Yes.
A lot of people,
right.
One of the most common questions that comes through the website is, are you guys open to the public? And it looks like a public display, but it's not. Number one, we don't have the insurance for it and we can't afford it. It's insane. And it's where we're raising our kids. They don't have the most normal life because of the path we've chose. So our way of giving them normalcy is to give them some privacy. You know what I mean? We would love to have some kind of like public, at least nature center one day, maybe down the pipeline, or maybe we can set that as like a goal on our Patreon page to, maybe eventually have that one day. But for now, the way for people to see us is through social media. And that's what we do. We try to broadcast as much of it as possible. But I actually am in favor of that state turtle and tortoise selling law because there's if it was allowed, what kind of excuse would I really be able to give to people? Like, hey, I'm going to charge you top dollar for this animal, but I'm not going to let you come pick it out.
Right.
You lose sale after sale that way.
Yeah.
So it's, I let people pick from photos and stuff, but that's it. Everything's got to be shipped out. And it's kind of a security measure too,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got two kinds of questions here. I agree with the security measure, and that's honestly a saving grace, I bet, in your book. We had a question in chat of what what's the process of becoming a herpetologist? I know you kind of touched on what you did to become one earlier, but maybe we'll touch on that one more time.
I mean, obviously, there are colleges that offer herpetology classes. I know that. I think it all starts with a degree in biology. None of that of which I did. Like I said, like I got lucky, I guess. I put the work in since I was 5 years old, and I just kind of had to keep proving myself over and over again, which I wouldn't change anything. I don't regret anything. I'm very proud of my accomplishments. But if you do go to school for it and look into the right avenues, it'll probably happen easier and quicker for you.
Right.
Just almost everybody else I work with went to school for it. My boss didn't, though, which is interesting. And he's a world-renowned herpetologist, but it's kind of just trying to get as it's nichey, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I went to school when school was really affordable. I mean, credit hours were only $12 a credit hour, and I could afford. I got 2 different biology degrees in 5 years, and I had no student loans because I worked as a student biologist in the summer for game fishing parks or U.S. Fishing or U.S. Forest Service, and then being that I had been a track star, I was immediately put into the fire line. It's like if you're fit, you fight fires. Yeah. and so and then you get hazard pay on top of science pay. And so I mean, with my summer jobs, I was able to afford 5 years of college. But that was back in the 75. I started in 75 and graduated in 80. And so it was, but now, it's ridiculous. Even in the same exact college, it's $270 per credit hour. It's insane. And so what Game and Fish, they're not hiring me as a biologist of anything I learned in school. I mean, I'm not hired by Game and Fish right now. I'm a volunteer scientist, but it's my reptile experience of just being a reptile keeper, a turtle keeper for decades that I'm doing this turtle rescuing for. So essentially, it's my experience, not my schooling.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's a great point. Experience is everything.
Yeah.
You've got to.
100%.
Yeah, you've got to have it. There were when I first applied for this job, there were plenty of other people that had degrees, had gone to college, finished college, but my lifelong experience, is really what is what got landed me the position,
Right.
And especially with something like that, I mean, look at it this way, and this doesn't go for everybody. I'm not hating on anyone, but there's so many people in upper positions, actually in authoritative positions, people that write laws, write permits, do all kinds of things like that. But if you put these animals in front of them, they can't tell you who's who.
Yeah.
So that was very valuable. One of the first questions that my boss asked me at my interview was, can you identify our native species? I said, every single one of them from across the yard, I can tell you what they are.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can tell you every single one of them and every single variation of them, and that kind of stuff is like, well, that right there, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
I grew up like people like, where'd you go to school? In the woods. That's where I went. Right? Nature talk. And I my father used to, when he would get frustrated with me, sometimes he would say, all you do is eat, breathe, drink, sleep turtles, you know what I mean? Or reptiles, and he's one of my biggest supporters and biggest fans, so it's like, but he's right. That's what I did. I just wanted to have a book in front of me. When it was winter, I wanted to watch the documentaries, look at my own animals, and read books on the subject, and nothing else. And then when the spring would come and summer would hit, I was back outside again. And, I mean, I remember, growing up late winters, the snow's falling outside, and just curling up with a book and then just putting myself in it's July and I'm outside, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm watching box turtles cross the road, like whatever, So I think that's the number one best advice is,
Yeah.
you know, before, during, and even after you go for a degree, get as much experience as you possibly
Yes.
you know.
Well, and then I tell people, when you get a wildlife and fisheries degree, you don't know everything about every species. They mostly tell you on habitat manipulation, you know, because they said, you know, you think you're going to be working with animals every day. Wildlife management is people's management, and it's habitat management.
Yes.
And sometimes you're going to be out there doing a census, you know, to determine how many licenses for the deer that we can let out, sell. Or, you know, do we have an extra deer season because they're overpopulated and they're starving? And, you know, so you count some species, but you don't really, really, really get to know, you know, a particular species unless you're really doing it on your own, you know, on your own time, you know, when you are in the field and you're censusing, you know, any particular species, you do get to see if what you've read about that species is what you're seeing in the field.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I would get so obsessed that, you know, I even now with filming, you know, a lot of times, you know, I got to pull back a little bit, and I hate to use the phrase, but dumb things down a little bit, because the average viewer, you know, wants to learn, but they're not going to be able to follow where I'm going with something. So Casey, a lot of times she's like, slow down, you're saying too much. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna, I mean, literally, like just with Mediterranean tortoises alone, particularly Hermans and Greek tortoises, I've learned how to identify the localities of them, and that's a big thing in the snake world too. You know, a New Jersey chain king snake, eastern king snake, does not look like one from North Carolina, and it doesn't look like one from Georgia, and it doesn't look like one from, you know, northern Florida. Genetically, they're all Lampropeltis getula, but they're vastly different. You know, when you're looking at a New Jersey king snake, and I can explain that to a certain degree, but when it comes to some of these things, I'm like, man, how do I even convey this information to people right now? Because I can't show you my brain.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's a lifelong journey of just, you know, eating, drinking, breathing, and sleeping it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing, you know, I did this odd, you know, a roadkill egg rescue, and out came this clown and then 4 other clowns that didn't hatch. They died during incubation.
Oh, wow.
And then 5 individuals that were of wild type. So here are the 10 eggs that weren't smashed on the road with the female. You know, 5 ended up being a clown genotype, and the other one wild color genotype. Mm-hmm. And so then you know, my mind raced and I had never seen a hypopastel other than, you know, some of the redder sliders that were in the books when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So I started going online and asking questions, and boy, some of the, well, you don't deserve to have that turtle, you need to give it to a breeder, you don't know what you're doing, you know, kind of thing. It's like, excuse me, but as far as turtle husbandry goes, I've got that down. I'm now curious about this genetics. Is anybody producing them? Did the road temperatures cause this? Did the anoxia, you know, the anoxia in the dead body where I found 5 of the eggs cause this? You know, what, you know, my questions is, you know, like, why? You know? And then
why, yeah.
Yeah. And then to be, you know, so some of the reptile people, turtle breeders, were just really, really, really helpful. And these others were telling me, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to kill that turtle. It's a one of a kind. It's like,
because they want it. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they want it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. I was a private little pet keeper until that turtle was born, and it opened me up to, you know, the podcast world, you know, getting really investigating the reptile world. And so because of that clown, I found you and Casey. You know, I have to tell you this. I've done some really big sculptures that are out there, and paintings and whatever. And I've had a lot of Hollywood clients. And I told Matthew, I go, I'm more excited to talk to Chris and Casey than to have an interview with one of my Hollywood clients.
Oh my God, that's awesome! Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
very flattered. Very flattered.
Because because to me, you're a star of my world. They're a star in their own world, and it's like, yeah, I'll take your money, I'll do your pet tiger, or
Wow.
I mean, I met Michael Jackson's chimp. I met, all this kind of stuff, when I lived in California up in Wrightwood for, 2 years. And a lot of people a lot of stars had cabins up in the Wrightwood and Arrowhead in that area. So that's where, so I met a lot of those folks. But, the life that you and Casey are living, it's like, wow, that is
Crazy.
Crazy. A lot of, I don't think I'd have the energy to just keep up with, your reptile life, let alone the kids and everything. And how many acres are you guys on?
It's just over 2.
Just over 2. Wow, it looks so much bigger.
Yeah.
So into your, go for it.
What's that?
Go for it, Chris.
Oh no, we're just over 2, but like I said, we're backed up to 47,000 acres of wildlife refuge, so nobody could ever build. And so it's definitely plenty of room for there's so much of our property that we haven't even touched yet. We keep saying like the whole left side of our property along the driveway and even back, like actually right behind this building and up, it's all these massive white pines that are not even native that the old homeowner, or actually, what am I talking about? Like many years ago, the homeowner planted, and they're huge now. And we keep saying like, man, if we get an arborist in here to rip all these out, we would have so many more, so much more like prime real estate for more enclosures, another building, or, we'll get there when we get there, or maybe we won't even do it. Who knows?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. My question was, are you running out of space for your demand?
We're not. It's we're not. Our house is good size. It's almost 2,300 square feet, and we still have plenty of room in the backyard if we want to do like a big patio or a deck or even a pool one day. But yeah, I mean, I got to say, we even have a little bit of a farm going on here. We have goats, we have chickens. We're getting actually, no, I shouldn't say this in case. Whatever. We're expecting a mini cow. We're getting an African zebu.
Oh,
heck yeah.
Yeah.
I keep saying my wife. Casey. Casey, she comes from the zoo world. She's a former zookeeper, and one of her favorite animals that she worked with at one of the zoos was an African zebu named Boo Cow, and she fell in love with the breed, and she's been teasing me. Well, she didn't really tease me. She has wanted one for, we'll be married 10 years next year. And we've been together for almost 13. So all this time she's been like, I want to get a zebu. When am I getting a cow? When am I getting a zebu? And like, it's gotten to the point where other people will tease me about it. Like I've been on other podcasts before where like somebody will like call in or even like the person, interviewing me will be like, so the question is, when is your wife getting her cow? So finally, this year, I got in touch with the farm that she fell in love with. They're called Sunnyfield Farms. They're in Virginia. And the guy's actually originally from up here. And I put a deposit down.
Okay.
One that is going to be, we're going to get it sometime this year. We just don't know exactly.
Oh, nice.
We're getting it this year. So
now, what color are those? Because I've fallen in love with those white ones that have this black eyeliner and black ears. And there's all different colors. There's some that they call like paints, where like it looks like a bucket of paint has been splattered on them. Then there's like a silver one with the black eyeliner and the black nose. So basically, what happens is when our turn comes up, they will contact us with the available calves, and then as long as she is happy with one, which she's going to want them all, so of course she will. So pick the one we want, and then we'll make a whole video out of that. We're going to drive down to the farm, and cool.
We definitely wanted a female though. We wanted it to be a female. So we know at least that much that it will be a girl.
Okay, so, cute. Yeah. So then
we don't know what it looks like yet. We don't know when it's happening, other than that it is happening this year, and that it'll be a female. So.
And you're going to make your own cheese and everything out of it?
No. We're just pure enjoyment. That's all. I've never had a cow before, so I don't know what I'm in for, but we'll see. I like the goats. The goats are cool.
Yeah, because I can't have cow cheeses, but I can have goat cheeses. And I keep telling Joel, I said, I want a goat to take out the weeds. I also want one that will take out, that'll give me some goat cheese. the shepherd cheese.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Chris, one of my questions that I still have is, you've kind of hinted on that you need a bunch of coffee. And you got a lot
That I
of kids.
what? That I need what?
And
yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
That you always need coffee. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coffee. Yep.
Yeah. How do you manage the time in the day? That's where my question's going.
That is actually my biggest downfall. My biggest downfall. Did we lose him? Is he going to be able to hear me?
I don't know. I think he's just kind of breaking up right now.
You can hear me?
You can. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That time management and balance is my biggest downfall. Actually, I have a very hard time finding that. I've been working on it. I've been on a little bit of a personal journey the last year to try to figure out how to do that more. But it's very difficult, and especially when you're working with animals, you can't really predict much. You could think that everything is fine, and you could say, okay, I'm going to go devote an hour to this right now, and then I'm going to get back inside, and it's going to be movie time, or we're going to go here, or I got to go do whatever. And then you go tend to the animals, and somebody's sick, or something bad has happened, or something even wonderful could be happening, whatever. And now an hour just turned into 3.
Yes.
So I used to be glued to this thing beyond belief, where I was answering every single email every moment it came in, and then answering comments and tending to the animals. And I would literally be like this while I'm like trying to feed a snake, or a monitor lizard that could take my finger off, and this is, Casey would have a lot of talks with me about this stuff, like you're not managing your time. You don't have any balance. And she was 100% right. And I've learned to put this thing down and go to it when necessary, and try to, if I've got emails to answer, I'll step out of the room, I'll go outside, or I'll devote time to do that instead of doing it while my daughter's trying to talk to me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's hard. It still is. And I slip up, it's you're trying to manage a lot of different things, and we're very blessed. We're very fortunate, but what we do every single day is an absolute ton of work. And we try, one of the video that's coming out Sunday is, it's called something like, I forgot what the title of it is. I think it's like Living with 400 plus animals. It's a 24-hour job or something like that. Yeah. And we try to show in the video, like, the video starts off, I'm collecting eggs. Then now I'm down to our study site, and I'm working with the Diamondback Terrapins. Now I'm going back to our property, and I'm feeding everybody, and then I'm ending the video, because at that point I have so much more to feed and do, but that's all I could get in the video,
Right.
So it's a lot, going away is tough. We still manage to do it, though. We do make time for family vacations, but prime example, Casey is going to see her grandfather in Virginia tomorrow. Her and the girls will be gone for like 3 or 4 days to go see him. This is probably her only chance that she's going to get to see him the entire summer because of how busy we are. But I got to stay here. I got to be here. The Terrapins are going nuts right now. It's their nesting season. Our animals are nesting. We've also got the dogs. We'd have to kennel them. So doing this comes with a price. But I made this bed, so I'm going to lay in it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I have that same problem. I've got, I've had to learn how to say to people, I can't take your call or your message exactly when you want me to get back to you. They ask me, well, what if it's an emergency? I go, well, I'm not a surgeon, and so if it's an emergency, call a surgeon, but, and just really have to protect my time. And my operation is minuscule compared to yours. But then I also have my art business, and Joel and I, neither of us had kids. And so that gives us, a lot of freedom, because by now we would be having grandkids we would have to, find time for, And so but still I feel overwhelmed because I have all these juveniles to release, but they won't let me release them until I have a vet give them a health certificate. And so I'm raising the money through GoFundMe to afford the $300 to $500 to have this batch tested for release, and they're taking up 2 tanks and 2 outdoor tubs, and
Yeah.
and I mean that's so small compared to that's why I asked you, what's your vitamins, because oh my God, I mean
I can see I'm puffy right here. I can see it. Yeah, I need to get more of a tan. Maybe it'll hide it a little more. But yeah,
I used cover up tonight.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'd be lying if I said any of this was easy. And sometimes I sit there and I think like, man, what's even my hobby anymore? What do I enjoy doing besides spending time with the family? And my hobby was always the animals.
Yeah.
But at one time when things were slower paced and it was just some animals and I didn't have kids yet or whatever, it was so easy to just sit down, have a beer, and just watch the animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just watch them for no reason. Maybe get a couple cool photos of it for my Instagram page, and that was it. There's very little time for that now.
Yeah.
And it's my time is when we're filming, and I will like, oh, this is going to be a really cool shot if I get on the ground with the animals right now. But I'm like, this is what I used to do just to do it,
Yeah.
So, it having this kind of operation definitely takes that away. Some of that away, a good amount of that away. But our kids are so young right now. They're 3 and 6. Mm-hmm. So, well, actually she's going to be 4 next month. So 4 and 6, but it's a very needy age that they're at,
Mm-hmm.
You try to explain things to them. Like, we got to work right now. We got to do this. They don't understand,
right.
Can't, you got to do as good of a job as you can to not get frustrated with them, even though it's impossible sometimes. It's not their fault,
right.
That, this is their home,
yeah.
but it's our home and our place of work too.
Right.
So that's where it can get messy. And there's times where we're down and we're like, man, are we doing things right? Are we doing this the right way? But one thing's for sure is that we're a team.
Mm-hmm.
And we're partners on everything. And we, even when we get upset, we always come back to each other and figure it out, because we're responsible for all these animals too,
Yeah. Well, you're fortunate. Your job is doing what you love in life. And so many people don't have that luxury. They're doing what they have to do to get home and then, have their life during the evening and on the weekends.
Yeah.
And, you are, that's like me and my art. I get to make money doing what I love doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the turtles have become, it's fascinating, but at the same time, it's I don't want it to get to the point where, no, I don't want to rescue that turtle. I'm just overwhelmed, and my contact with the Game and Fish, she's like, we don't want you to get burned out, but
burnout's a real thing. We get very burned out with YouTube. We really do.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's hard to come up with ideas. We're like, what do we film this week? We don't really have anything going on. Well, let's just do a day in a life video. Well, who really wants to watch that? Well,
me.
Yeah. So and it's tough. And then, some videos don't perform well and it's a big letdown, and then you have some that do really well and you're on this crazy high. You're like, this is great. People love us. And then the next video,
Well, yeah. How many of Otis have done poorly? I can't imagine an Otis video doing poorly.
Yeah, I don't think we did have one Otis video that did poorly, and we still to this day think that there was some kind of glitch with YouTube that day because it was weird. It was like at his height too. Like, he's still a big deal, but so many people just know of him now that I think they kind of expect him more than anything. But yeah, he's definitely been a major boost for us. And it's funny, I take him on presentations. I just did this past weekend, and a lot of people come out just to see him. They know he's going to be there, and then but then the people that that are hearing of him for the first time, they're just blown away because the turtle never underperforms ever.
Yeah,
ever. There's no such thing as that turtle closing up in his shell and not doing anything. He's always ready to just be like, I'm going to beat you up, or I'm going to do something cool. Like, I'm in charge. I don't care how much bigger you are than me. He's just remarkable.
Yeah, yeah, he's funny. I love your T-shirt, Otis for POTUS.
That came through YouTube. Bunch of people were recommending we did that. A lot of people, and we're like, this is a great idea. Let's just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
yeah, he's right behind me, actually.
So, any babies of Otis you have for sale?
We haven't bred him yet.
Wow.
We're very nervous to do that because I know a lot about box turtles and their anatomy, their ecology, and even the pathogens and diseases that they naturally carry. So we're waiting. Almost every single time we take box turtles in, it's never just one. There's a bunch, and they've got some weird history. Oh, I found this one crossing the road in like 1999 and I still have her. But then I found this one crossing the road last year and now I have them together. And it's like, okay, if you just had her since 1999 and she wasn't in contact with any other box turtle, that might be a candidate for Otis. But we're so nervous because I'll tell you, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand how remarkably sick box turtles get from each other when they're not properly quarantined and then just thrown in together. And a turtle like Otis that has essentially been alone all this time.
Oh yeah.
We would be completely ruined especially if it was our fault, if we put a turtle with him just for the sake of breeding him and he got sick.
Right.
So we're just waiting for that perfect moment, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody is gonna. There was actually one turtle that I almost put with him, but then I just checked in with the person that gave her to us, and I said, I just wanted to ask, has absolutely beautiful female, one of the best looking females I've ever seen. She lives outside here. She doesn't live with Otis. I checked in with her before I was about to do it, and she said, oh yeah, she was with a couple other turtles up until last year. And I was like, nope, not going to chance it. She's still healthy, still doing great. She's actually the last 2 nights been trying to lay eggs, so that should happen any day now. But yeah, she's not a match for him yet.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, if this clown gets big enough to breed, so far she's a female, but she's not growing like her siblings did. And I was hoping it'd be a male because I don't think it's going to get big enough to have viable eggs.
Yeah.
But if she did, it's like, boy, she's been living a life alone. And I, as a biologist, I tell people, well, the one bad thing about people like me, I ended up with severe asthma, and from fighting forest fires and all this sort of thing. And my doctor goes, yeah, we don't want you to catch COVID. And so then I isolated for like 3 years, and it's like, well, now I'm sure my immune system is become virginal, not exposed to what it should be exposed to.
Yeah.
And so now, it's, so I was explaining that to people, but now it's, I'm not worried about COVID. I'm worried about the other colds and flus that put me in the emergency room before COVID, because now I haven't been exposed to them at all.
Yeah.
So I've been a bubble baby for 3. And so I explained that whole thing as far as reptile keeping goes too. I mean, this clown has lived by herself since she was born in October of 2019.
What species is it again?
Western. She's a Western painted turtle.
Western painted, okay.
And the offers that I get on her, and I'm like, no, I'm too curious to find out if this, I've got her brother that I've bred to a female that I kept in isolation for a year, and very healthy, and she was captive born, and so I put her with him, and they're having offspring now. But because our house is 572 square feet log cabin, and then we've got on the 3 acres, and I've got a studio cabin outside, but I don't have room for that many tanks, and so I have a breeding partner that I'm sharing the offspring with, and some of a brother to my clown, and so he's going to be really doing the massive breeding of this line to see if we can reproduce this, or if it was just an environmental factor that she was baked. She was one of the eggs that was either on the highway or within the turtle, the deceased mom's body cavity, and was it just the heat affected her, um, you know, protein synthesis to produce that color, and it's not genetic. You know, it's so it's just, you know, I've called a number of universities to send, you know, if I could send some tissue samples to them to see if her genome is different than the other genomes of Western painted turtles they have on file. And they go, you know, they wouldn't answer me. They go, "This is determined color genetics." I go, "Yes." They go, "Oh, we don't have time and space for that." You know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And it would probably cost me hundreds of dollars to have a DNA full genome done on this turtle. So yeah. I need another star commission to get that done.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So now your aquascape ponds, I just am so envious. I mean, I follow Ed, you know, the Ed Ballou, the pond professor, and Greg Whitsock, and how often are you out having morning coffee beside that pond?
Well, because the insects are so bad here.
Oh,
no, pretty much every morning. You know, it's one of the first things I do. I walk out and walk the pond. I'm actually going to be with those guys in about 2 weeks. July 6th, I'm flying out to Chicago to be with them for a couple days. Mm-hmm. And then, so yeah, I haven't seen either one of them since they were here when they built the pond 2 summers ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, they actually built me 2 ponds, a smaller one up front where our currently right now we're keeping our Chinese box turtles in that one. And then the real big one that's right out the door here. That's got a number of species in it. But yeah, it's such a unbelievable piece of art, you know?
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous. You know, it never gets old. Just the sound of it, because it's right out our kitchen window.
Nice.
You're saying to Casey, I would love to do like one of those, like rip the window out and do like a big bay window that comes out, so it almost looks like you're on the water. You know, that would be quite a project that I certainly wouldn't be good at doing. So
yeah, that is that's my dream, is to get a pond where I'm trying to convince the game and fish to. They say we still have Blanding's turtles here, and the last time one was seen was decades ago in the southeast corner of South Dakota.
It sounds like Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and you know, I said, well, let's do you know, a reintroduction, you know, captive breeding and reintroduction of the Blandings in that area. But we have a lot of big ag interests in that area that didn't want that sort of thing to happen, because they've drained a lot of the wetlands to maximize the acreage for the agricultural interests. And so reintroducing a species like that would mean more regulations in that area. So it's the kibosh. And that brings me to a question. You were saying you were working on the bog turtle. When I heard this recent Supreme Court decision on non-connected bodies of water, meaning isolated ponds and sloughs and marshes can be drained for development because they're not connected to bodies of water that communities are reliable or are relying on for drinking water and such. I thought, like, oh my God, there goes the bog turtle. I mean,
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, just, you can Google Supreme Court decision. It was within this last month that they've decided that ponds and sloughs are, you know, they're not, they've come up with a new term of what an adjacent water body is. And it's just, yeah, it's, to me, you know, we live in what's called prairie pothole region, very needed for the migratory bird species. Well, South Dakota has drained more of those prairie potholes than any other plain state along that flyway. And so now then they're wondering, well, why are the birds all passing over? And why is our, our waterfowl hunting isn't as it was? And, yeah. And so I immediately became afraid of the bog turtle, because I know, some of those marshes and sloughs, were, oh geez, that That was Matthew. Anyway, what is it, Matthew?
I think he probably has like no service right now, maybe.
Okay, should I ask the questions? Or are you going to be able to know? Hello? Oh, he didn't. I lost him on that too. He has questions that he likes to ask every podcaster we have on here.
Okay.
And yeah, Caulfield. And one of them is, if you could breed and sell any species, whether that once lived on the planet or currently does live on the planet, what would that species be?
And is he strictly talking about turtles and tortoises, or just
any species that ever walked on Earth, but not including man? We did have one.
I have a very unrealistic obsession of needing to know what a Tyrannosaurus Rex really looked like. I mean, I can't tell you how upset I was when they first announced that they believed it had feathers. You know what I mean? I was like, no, please no. You know what I mean? And then they retracted that a little bit, and they said maybe he had pseudo feathers. That then maybe Jurassic Park was actually pretty darn accurate. You know, I would. God, there's so much skepticism and morale to this. You know, what would be the right or wrong thing to do? But I mean, dinosaurs in general fascinate me. But I would love to know what T-Rex really looked like. So I think if I could do that with one animal, it would be T-Rex. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now the other one is I'm waiting for him to send.
I don't know that I would sell any T-Rexes though. I think I would hoard them all.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one, and you would know much more as a father. There's one show that kids watch a lot of, these animals that have these animal powers, and I'm waiting for him to tell me which show that was, and your girls probably watch it. But they said if you could have one of those animal powers, which one would it be?
Animal powers. Which show is that?
It's some kind of supernatural animals that have all these supernatural powers. And
I don't know that my girls actually watch that. You know,
okay.
They are. Did he text you the show?
No, Creature Power.
Creature Power.
What's the name of the show though? He didn't tell me what's the name of the show. Here, I'll type back show name. But I'm a rule breaker, so you could ask. You can go beyond that. I'm as far as I'm concerned. Include the Avengers or any other.
Oh, okay.
Any other power.
I never really thought about this.
With kids, I would think that this was a fun topic of what creature power or what supernatural power would you choose to have?
I think I would choose to be the Hulk, not because I want to smash everything. There's definitely some things I want to smash, but if you were the size of Hulk, that would mean that you could put away some serious food, and I love to eat. I actually get mad when I start getting full because I'm like, I don't want this to be over right now. So I think that would be mine. But as far as like a creature power, my girls, like, they love to watch Bluey. They love to watch Gabby's Dollhouse. They like to watch. They do love nature documentaries. I got to give it to them. They'll get hooked on a show about sharks like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know about a creature power.
The one that Joel and I agree on. Joel's my partner of 23 years. Is to be able to jump from one location to another. It's like, I want to see this lizard on Madagascar, or ding.
Oh yeah. You know what? Yeah, I would pick that too, because I would love to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go run over to Italy right now and check out the Herman's tortoises, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be super. I want to go run over to the Galapagos and ride a Galapagos tortoise for an hour, and then I'll be home.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then the third question is, one piece of advice you would give for someone just getting into reptiles.
Don't let anybody ruin it for you. Don't let, and I say this cautiously because I don't want anybody to think that I'm being too broad or too general with this. Don't let people ruin it for you. Okay. We were talking about earlier with comments and stuff, and even what you're going through with the clown painted turtle. There's people out there that, for whatever reason, whether it's they just don't believe in you, or they're jealous, or they're just mad, or they don't agree with you, people try to tear you down. And it's remarkable how much of that goes on in the reptile community. So I think that would, and that's where I get burned out. That's where I get dark sometimes, is because of, what can happen with people, No, it says that your microphone's muted. That's what it's telling me. There
we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
No, I can't hear you.
Oh.
Darn. Matthew's the tech guy, and he's
still can't hear me?
Let's see.
Yep.
I'm gonna unplug my. Hello?
I can hear you.
I cannot hear. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, this is bad.
Still can't hear you?
But I don't know if anybody else can hear Chris. Is anybody else hearing Chris here on the chat?
I'm still here.
Come on, Matthew, where are you?
I think he's in a bad spot.
Well, this is a time that we normally.
I can't hear you now, Peggy. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can. Can you hear me?
Nope. I'm going to leave the studio and come back. I'm going to go and then come back.
Well, it's just me now. Well, I'm not sure what's going on, but thank you guys for watching, and thank you to Peggy and Matt for having me, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon.